Hello, welcome to Film at 11, a new video podcast in which an 11-year-old film critic watches a movie he's never seen before to review it from his 11-year-old perspective. My name is Joshua Zeiber, editor of the Video File Home Theater blog. While I've written extensively about movies and TV for years, as you might notice, I'm not 11 years old. However, sitting next to me is my son Joseph, who recently turned 11.
Hi.
As a parent, I've often struggled to share my passion for movies with my kids, Joseph here in particular. So this podcast is my thinly veiled attempt to force him to watch some movies with me. We'll see how that goes. Here's how it's supposed to work. In each episode, I will choose a movie using my discretion as a parent for what I feel is appropriate that my son has not seen before. He will not know what it is in advance. He will go into the viewing with an open mind. And afterward, we'll discuss what he thought about it, which parts he liked, and which parts he didn't. For today's screening, we're going to watch a classic murder mystery thriller. Are you ready for this, Joseph?
Sure.
We're going to watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Joseph,
Okay.
to confirm, have you ever watched Who Framed Roger Rabbit before?
No.
How much do you know about this movie?
Pretty much nothing. I don't really think I know who Roger Rabbit is.
All right, so you've never seen a Roger Rabbit short?
No.
Okay. You don't know anything about the character?
Well, he's a rabbit, I think.
Are you sure?
Maybe his name
All
is
right,
Roger.
based on nothing other than the cover art, what do you think this movie is about?
Somebody stole his car.
Somebody stole his car.
Or
Okay.
somebody broke into somewhere. I don't know.
Okay. I think this is going to be interesting. We'll see how he reacts to this one. Going into this, what are your feelings about this choice? Are you excited about this, or are you going to be sulky and miserable like you usually are when I try to make you watch movies with me?
I'll be excited.
He'll be excited, he says. I'm not sure I'm convinced. We'll see. I think this is a good one. I saw this movie when I was about 14 years old, so a little bit older than Joseph. But I think he can handle the spine-tingling suspense of this movie. We'll see how that goes. All right, so our movie today, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Let's roll it. Welcome back to Film at 11. We have just finished watching Who Framed Roger Rabbit. This was Joseph's first time watching the movie, and I'm quite interested to find out what he thought of it, because he admitted up front that this isn't a movie you had known anything about. Had you ever heard of the movie before?
No.
Okay. So my question for you is, when the movie started with that long cartoon, and it was pretty long, what were you expecting the movie to be?
Well, at first, I kind of expected it to just be like, I was like, oh, is this just a compilation of cartoons?
Okay, so when that first transition came and it switched to live action, were you surprised by that?
Yeah, a little bit.
Just a little bit?
Yeah, it wasn't that. Other movies have done that before, I feel like.
Okay, I mean, technically, yes. The story of this movie was set in 1947, it said at the beginning. If you had to guess, when would you say this movie was made?
Like sooner or later?
Yes. Do you think it was more towards the time that it's set, or more towards today?
More towards today.
Okay. Yeah, it's sort of in between. It was actually made in 1988, and I was 14 years old when this came out. I did not see it in the theater, I don't believe. I saw it later on home video, and it aired many times on cable, but I've watched it many times since then. But at that time in 1988, while technically there had been movies that had blended live action and animation before, this was one of the most ambitious attempts to do that. And it was one of the most technically accomplished attempts to do that. That there had never been a movie that had it done quite this well before. And one of the things that was a really big deal when this movie came out, and I don't know how much impact it had on you, but it was a really big deal when this came out, the way that this movie had characters from both Disney and the Looney Tunes, the Warner Brothers Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
And those two things in the past, previous to this, had never interacted before. They were made by separate movie studios that didn't interact. And this production managed to wrangle the rights to use them both. But now, as a modern day 11-year-old who probably hasn't watched a lot of Looney Tunes or a lot of classic Disney cartoons that involve like Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse and Donald Duck, I mean, you've made yourself studying a little bit of that, right?
Yeah.
But like when I was a kid, the Looney Tunes were still on television regularly. Even old ones would air on TV, and I watched a lot of them. So I knew Yosemite Sam right away, and some other characters like that showed up. Of course, Daffy Duck was very famous, and I'd watched tons of those cartoons. But I don't think you have that much exposure to Looney Tunes, do you?
Not really.
So did you even pick up on the fact that these were famous characters that are known characters?
Well, I mean, I saw Dumbo. I didn't know a lot of them, but I knew a couple of them.
Okay. So Dumbo, what other ones did you recognize? I made a little list here that has a few of them that I picked out.
I'm pretty sure that one of my friends at school has a Betty Boop backpack, or used to.
Mm-hmm, yep.
So I saw her.
Yeah, and Betty Boop is actually from a different movie studio as well, called Fleischer Studios. And so Betty Boop and Droopy Dog, and for example, although Droopy Dog I think was Looney Tunes, but Woody Woodpecker is what I'm thinking of. Were from different movie studios entirely. So this movie really like brought everything together into one story where they all interacted as if they were real world people, actors working in movies, and they just happen to be cartoons. But okay, so you only got a few of them, but I mean, so for example, Donald Duck, you've seen Donald Duck before, right? And the famous scene where they're playing the piano is Donald Duck and Daffy Duck together.
Yes.
So that was, the fact that they were both playing off of each other was a pretty big moment originally. But I didn't know if that was even something that played for you. Did you find that impressive at all, or did you just shrug it off like, oh, it's just a bunch of cartoons?
I kind of just shrugged it off.
I had a feeling. And from today, there's a lot of other newer movies that mix live action and animation together. And you've probably seen some of those. But I don't know, so I don't know if this movie was quite as impressive to you as it was when it first came out. So what were your feelings about this movie? Like overall, did you like the movie?
Yes.
Okay. Was there anything you didn't like about the movie?
Well, I don't know. I kind of thought that maybe the humans were kind of abusing the tunes.
Well, they definitely were.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and not just the evil characters, but even the main character Eddie was very like mean to the tunes and would beat them up. And in the movie, it's his attitude that, well, they're just cartoons and they can take the abuse, like, and all the other characters, the movie studio producers and the directors and all that were used to like throwing refrigerators on their heads and stuff like that, because they're cartoons and they can take it, they can take anything, so they weren't,
except that substance.
The dip is the one thing that actually hurts them, which we discover later on. Did you understand what the dip was?
It was just like a mix of chemicals.
Yeah, it was chemicals, including turpentine and things. It's basically paint remover. And because the animation is painted, the paint remover would wipe them out.
Oh, that makes sense. I didn't realize what it was.
Yeah. When this movie ended, you bolted from the room, as is in a very annoying habit that you have, where you always just, as soon as the credits are up, bam, you're out of there. So I don't know if you caught any of the credits at the end, but I'm wondering, did you notice who it said directed this?
No.
Okay. His name is Robert Zemeckis. Does that name sound familiar to you?
Not really.
Okay. You have seen 3 movies that he's made recently.
Recently?
Yes. He made Back to the Future.
Oh, yeah.
Back to the Future 2 and 3. He made all 3 of those movies. This movie came after the first Back to the Future, but before Back to the Future Part 2. So it was in between those movies. So did you recognize the actor playing Judge Doom?
No.
He didn't look familiar to you, really?
He actually did kind of.
That was Doc Brown from Back to the Future.
Oh.
Yes. His name is Christopher Lloyd, so that was Doc Brown right there. Yeah, so things like that were things that I was wondering if you were paying enough attention to notice that, but apparently not, as we find out.
Sorry.
That's okay. When we started this podcast, before we started recording, I asked you to make a list of 3 things that you either liked or didn't like in the movie. So what were those 3 things for you?
Well, I noticed that the humans were abusing the tunes,
Mm-hmm.
and we talked about that. I also noticed that I thought I noticed some other movie references, like older movies.
Like what?
Like when Judge Doom died, he was like, "I'm melting."
Yes.
Yeah, the Wizard of Oz.
Exactly. That's a very, very definitely a Wizard of Oz reference.
Yes.
I also felt that when Eddie drives the car into Toontown, that transition from the real world city into Toontown felt a lot like the transition that Dorothy goes through when she gets to Oz for the first time. Okay, so what was your 3rd thing? You only gave me 2.
Well...
Man, I only asked for 3 things, and you can't
I forgot my things.
All right, well, you try and think of it. So I have some notes here. Like at the end of the movie, there's especially like a lot of those type of references.
Yes.
Where we'd already seen cameos from famous characters at the beginning of the movie, but at the end they really all come out, and you've got Porky Pig and Woody Woodpecker and Sylvester the Cat and Pinocchio. They all come out at the end there for the big hurrah. The other thing that this movie does is it's not just a cartoon references. Is that this is very much a merger of the classic film noir genre, which I don't think you have much familiarity with. But it's like detective movies and murder mysteries and whatnot. And so this is very much a murder mystery, but fused with a wacky Looney Tunes cartoon.
Yes.
So how did that aspect of the movie play for you as an 11-year-old viewer who has never really watched a film noir before? Did you like the storyline?
Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Did you find it confusing at all? Because I know you had a couple questions during the movie.
Yeah, it was a little confusing because, I don't know, I thought some things were kind of hard to understand for me.
All right. So did you find the plot line involving Cloverleaf and the freeway, did that make any sense to you?
Well, I thought not really, but I didn't really catch on about what Cloverleaf was doing. I was kind of confused on that part.
Right, but did you catch on that they were the company that was behind everything?
Yes, that they were trying to tear down
Toontown, yeah.
Toontown, I forgot.
Yeah. So the plot line at the end, it ultimately turns out that Judge Doom is trying to wipe out Toontown so that he can build a freeway. And he has this great vision that he announces at the end of endless roads with fast food restaurants and car dealerships along them.
Yeah.
And again, this is another thing that I don't know how whether you found it as funny because, well, number one, you've never been to Los Angeles, and that's what Los Angeles is today. There's a lot of the freeway is a very famous part of Los Angeles where there's multiple lanes of traffic. You've been on a highway before, of course, but I don't think you've ever been on a highway that's 4 or 8 lanes wide. And so the freeway in Los Angeles is like a major portion that takes up that area, and it's a giant strip of land with just like businesses and car dealerships and restaurants and all sorts of stuff. So the vision that Judge Doom had is what Los Angeles really is, and it was that when this movie was made. So anyone watching this movie who knew about Los Angeles would have recognized that he's describing what happened in the real world. But in the movie has a happier ending where Toontown was saved, and that's prevented from happening.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have anything else you want to throw in here? What else? Did you think of your 3rd thing yet?
No.
3 things I ask him for, and you can't do 3 things.
Well, I noticed that I felt like the cartoons were like goofy, and they didn't really have that many cares.
Right. Well, right.
And
the
then
point
I
being
felt
that they're
like,
cartoons, yeah.
and I felt like that he or what was his
Eddie?
No, the duck. Oh yeah, I forgot his name.
Donald Duck? Or
No, the duck, the main character duck. I forgot his name. Wasn't it like? I can't believe I forgot it when it's in the title.
He's not a duck, he's a rabbit.
Oh yeah, he's a rabbit. I thought he was a duck.
For the whole movie, you thought
No.
Roger Rabbit was a duck.
No.
Okay, well, what's your point? What point are you getting to here?
Like, he didn't really know how to, like, he's never been, like, faced with, like, a life or death situation, so.
Mm-hmm. Well, for Toons, like, they seemed like they couldn't die
Yeah.
until the end when we find out that they can. Except for the other twist, which is that we learn that they can die laughing. If they laugh too much, it can
Fatal.
cause them to, fatal for them. Which was pretty funny in the way the weasels, just their spirit floated out of their bodies, but their spirit could still be a little prankster and could manipulate things and turn the dip machine back on.
Yeah.
So, on our rating system here for this podcast, we have a score of either a W or an L. So what of those two would you rate Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Probably a W.
A W. Okay, there we have it. Would you recommend this to your friends?
Yeah.
Your other 11-year-old
I think they
friends?
would find it funny.
You think they'd find it pretty funny? Do you think this is a movie you would want to watch again at some point? To catch more of those references that you missed the first time?
Yes.
Okay. I do think that it's a movie that really rewards multiple viewings. I've seen it tons of times. It has been a while since I've watched it, but watching it again right now, it was just... I thought it was fantastic the way that everything was done. The merger of the live action and the animation was really flawless, especially for the time it was made. This movie still floors me, and I think that the more you watch it, the more things you get out of it, because you'll pick up on those little references that you missed before. When you have more experience watching different movies that this references, you'll appreciate those things more.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have anything that you want to add as your last thought before we go? No. We got to work on that part. Okay. So this was Who Framed Roger Rabbit. If you enjoyed this content, please like, share, and subscribe so that we can continue to do this. And if you want a grown-up take on movies, feel free to head over to videophileblog.com. I think we're going to wrap it up now. Joseph, do you want to say goodbye?
Bye.
Sitting next to me is my son Joseph, who recently did turn 11.
Hi.
Really? Hi. That's how you're going to do it?
Yes.
I'm going to go with take 6, and maybe we can try in a better tone of voice.
Wait, what should I say? Hi. I just say hi.
How about not? Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Hi.
My name is Mickey Mouse.
No. Bro is not Mickey Mouse.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Take 6.